and it's for all the world. Isn't that interesting? I am a light to the world. Then he says, and those who embrace me will experience life-giving light. Hello and welcome to Walk Right, Path to Healing. I am Steve, your host, and I am super thrilled that you are here today. Hey, this devotional podcast was designed to empower you on your spiritual journey, maybe your road to recovery, or wherever you're at today. And I am hopeful that by the end of each one of these podcasts, that your heart's maybe just a little bit bigger and you know and are a little bit more closer to Jesus Christ. So let's get started and discover how we can walk right towards a life of living and loving in the kingdom today. And today's episode is called The Small Ones, They're Not Twinkling. And we'll discuss that in a little bit. And today we're going to be in John chapter 8, verse 12, if you want to make your way over there. As I said, this is our Christmas episode. We've got 3 days left until Christmas. And I'll talk on behalf of every male right now. We'll get started shopping tomorrow. We've all been in that situation. I'm actually done this year. Sometimes I do really good. Sometimes I just wait to the last minute. So it gets easier and easier with Amazon every year. But, we still, procrastinate. It's weird. If you want to make your way over to John 8, verse 12, we'll get headed in there in a little bit. But as we begin every podcast, here is your story. The little lights, they're not twinkling. Man, that comes from a great movie. Many of you probably already know what that line is because it's such a cult classic of a movie. It's Christmas Vacation. Clark W. Griswold spends all that time getting those lights on his house, goes out there, and as he wrestles to get the electric working correctly, and they figured out a light switch wasn't working, and they turn it on and he gets the lights illuminated and his whole family's out there and he's just so proud. And the father-in-law comes by and goes, "The little ones, they're not twinkling, Clark." Man, all that. How many times have we been in that situation in life? It's just go through all that hard work and hey, the little ones, somebody notices that there's just that little imperfection. Talking about Christmas lights, let's talk about that for a little bit. Where did this all come from? I was so interested, and it originally came from a pagan ritual. During the winter months when it was really dark, they used to do fires, and they used to light candles and torches and stuff to bring light to the dark time of the season. It was a winter solstice celebration where they would illuminate the night. So then in the 16th century, Martin Luther in Germany decided to put candles on a Christmas tree. And it kind of spread throughout the town and then throughout Germany. And then the immigrants that came to the Americas in the late 1800s brought that tradition with them. So then that started the ritual of putting candles on Christmas trees here. Then in 1882, Howard D. Johnson, a partner of Thomas Edison, figured out how to string together 80 red, white, and blue lights, and he put them on the Christmas tree. And he was then named the father of Christmas lights. And then by 1895, President Grover Cleveland decorated the first White House Christmas tree with a strand of white lights. Now, they still weren't that popular because they were pretty expensive to buy a strand of lights. But then by the late 40s and into the 50s, towns started to string Christmas lights across the street and buildings started to be outlined, and then it just took off from there and just became tradition. And then by the 1960s, everybody was outlining their house with Christmas lights. You know, the big old C9s that we used to have. And that's kind of a quick story on where Christmas lights came from, which is kind of interesting. And it's just amazing now that, now it's not just Christmas where we do lights, but they do lights for Halloween, they do lights for Easter, they do lights for every holiday almost. It's crazy at all the colored lights you can get for each holiday. But that brings me to our verse today, John 8, verse 12. And it says, "Then Jesus said, I am light to the world, and those who embrace me experience life-giving light, and they will never walk in darkness." Kind of a short statement, short verse, but a very impactful one, a very powerful one. And if you're familiar with chapter 8 of John, right before this was the lady that was caught in adultery. They brought her to Jesus, said, we need to stone her to death. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And he says, those that have never sinned, go ahead and cast the first stone. And as that wisdom hit everybody, they started to drop their stones and slowly walk away. And the Pharisees were still there, and of course outraged. And then he made that comment. I am the light to the world, and those who embrace me will experience life-giving light, and they will never walk in the darkness. And they were really offended by that. The Pharisees were so offended. And he was saying it was just boasting about himself, and it just created a lot of problems. Well, why are they having such a problem with that? Because the I am statement is pretty profound. Now, this is the second time Jesus said, I am. The first time was back in chapter 6 when he said, I am the bread of life. And in this one, he says, I am the light of the world. And then in John chapter 10, he says, I am the gate for the sheep. And then he says, I am the good shepherd. Then he says, I am the resurrection of life over in 11. And then in 14, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And in 15, he finishes it up with, I am the true vine. And those are profound statements. Why? Because he's echoing Exodus 3:14, where God says, I am who I am. And the Pharisees knew this. They knew the written word, and they knew that that's what he was referring to. So for him to call himself God as he's walking on earth, that really upset the Pharisees. Of course, he's saying that he was God, and he is the light to the world. And he is the I am. He is God in his divine nature as Jesus as he walked the earth. He is the light to the world. And for those of us that embrace that know that believe, that have faith in that, will experience life-giving light. Well, what do you mean, experience light-giving life? That means that we too are lights to the world. We too love other people. We embrace that living. We embrace that which he is saying is in the kingdom. Then we are life-giving to others of that light and that love. And then he goes on to say, and they will never walk in darkness. And actually in the Greek here, when it says, will never walk in darkness, it's actually a double negative. They're saying, Jesus actually said, and they will never walk in darkness. And what does it mean to walk in darkness? It means, translated means they won't be pushed by darkness. They won't be driven by the desires of that darkness. Well, what's the darkness? It's your old self. It's the old Adam. It's the less than identity that you have that makes you do things that are against that identity. Well, the darkness is anything that goes against who you're created to be. Anything that's not of loving nature and loving kind is darkness. Anything that doesn't align with your identity in Jesus Christ is darkness. And once you embrace this light, and once you embrace this love, you don't want to walk or be pushed or driven by darkness. See, and I used to have this thought too, and I know a lot of people do, probably listening to this, It's that Christianity is a behavior modification. Jesus died for our behaviors because God was so mad with our behaviors that he had to kill his son for us to be forgiven of those behaviors. That's not what I see now. What I see was we lived in those behaviors because we weren't living as we were originally designed to live like Adam and Eve were before they fell. And since Adam and Eve fell, we fell. We were born into that nature. We were born into sin, so to say. Well, what is sin? Sin's missing the mark. It's missing the mark on who we were created to be. We turn it into behavior modification, and we focus on the things we do because of what happened. We don't focus on the actual root of the problem, which is your lost identity. So when you come to this and you have this transition from that thought to the new transition of, oh my gosh, God really does love me. He really wants to partake in every single part of my life. He really wants to be entangled in every single thing that I do, in not a pushy way, but just in a fatherly way. He wants to be involved. Once you transition over to that and you understand that love and you woke up to be loved and you woke up to love other people, there's no desire to want to do the things or bad behaviors that I once did because I'm fully confident in my new identity. And it doesn't mean we're perfect. And it doesn't mean that we're goody two-shoes. It just means that I don't wake up to want to go do those self-centered bad things anymore. I want to wake up and be a love and a light that people see Jesus in me. I want to wake up and be that and partake in the kingdom. And I want to please our Father, not because I have to in any way. It's just because that's the nature of what all this is. That's what Jesus is talking about. Once you embrace this, okay, once you embrace this and understand this, the true way, what this is all about, it's freeing. The truth will set you free. So you can have what we just talked about in the last episode, peace, joy, a life of goodness. It's just all those things. You could call it happy-go-lucky, whatever, but it's all those things that are from the nature of love. And he makes that bold statement. I am light. I am light. I am who I am, and I'm light. And there's no ounce of darkness or shadow near me or around me or can even come from me. And it's for all the world. Isn't that interesting? I am a light to the world. Then he says, and those who embrace me will experience life-giving light. He didn't say, I am a light to those who rose their hand and went to an altar at a church and said a prayer. He didn't say that. He says, I am a light to the world. And then those who hear the news, the good news, and embrace this will experience life-giving light. And they will never walk in darkness. That's an amazing Christmas story. Because he is the light of the world. He is a light to the world. For everybody, for all. You don't have to believe it. You can continue to live in your darkness. But I'm saying once you understand this and once you embrace it, you too will be a light to the world. And you'll never be pushed by darkness again. But I'll tell you what, darkness wants to try to push its way in and change that. Because you have to understand this is a spiritual warfare going on. This is a battle that we're in. And triggers come up and temptations come up and, the devil tries to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants to take that light from you. He doesn't want you to shine. He wants you to live in this false identity of Adam. He doesn't want you to understand that when Jesus died upon the cross, God reconciled the world back to himself. He reconciled our relationship back the way it was before Adam fell. That's the new identity. That's the living light that we are to walk in. Or, as Paul says all throughout the New Testament, you can continue to live in that old self. You can continue to live in the old Adam and not put on this new or embrace this new light-giving life. You can continue to go to church. You can continue to be in worship. You can continue to do ministry. You can continue to think you're doing well because you've heard about the light and you went forward at an altar because of the light, but you continue to pursue darkness. That's where the devil wins. That's what he wants. And we talk about it a lot in these episodes because it's so important to understand what this light-giving life is. It's freedom. It is total freedom. I've never felt so free in my life. Well, what are you free from, Steve? I'm free from the fear and condemnation I had when I was in a church setting. And now I could go into a church setting. I'm part of a church setting. I could go in there freely and just be love and light and love on these other people. And feel a hurt for them, for those that are still stuck. Not everybody, but some are still stuck in that way. I love God. I believe in God and I believe in Jesus, but I still feel less than. I still feel I'm not good enough. I still feel that he doesn't want to help me. I lived my life in ministry that way. He wanted to help everybody around me but me. It was all my perception. It was all the devil stealing, killing, destroying. So those little lights, they're not twinkling. Yeah, maybe they're not, but they're still shining, aren't they? And with this ministry, we can get the word out and we can get those people that have that little bit of light to start shining bright and twinkling. That's the hope anyway. And I hope you enjoyed a different Christmas message today. I hope you enjoyed learning something new about Christmas lights. And I hope you learned something new and positive about who Jesus was in just a simple phrase that he said way back when. Because it really can bring you Christmas joy. It really can bring you Christmas hope. It really can bring you Christmas peace of just being light, just being love, and never be pushed by darkness. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Walk Right, A Path to Healing. And I really hope you know that every step you take counts. Every step you take every day counts. And if you found value in this episode and want to share it with somebody, would you please do so? Would you also like and subscribe? Because you'll never miss an episode in, these weird stories connected to the Bible. I am so hopeful that these devotionals reach a lot of people. And by you liking and subscribing and commenting and sharing and doing all that, you'll help me get there. So join me next time for more inspiring stories and devotionals. And until then, keep walking right. May your path be filled with hope and purpose and joy. And always remember this Christmas season and every single day, you are so loved. You are holy. God bless you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. We'll be back after Christmas. I love you. I'll see you on the next episode.